and it's a long story, but I'll keep it as short as I possibly can. I think like most of the people I meet at my age in this industry, I started off with an unhealthy interest in computers. And what I mean by that is, my teenage years were consumed by them. And I always found it fascinating, how electricity and code could create, the visual feasts that we were seeing. And when I say feasts, I mean, back then we're talking Atari ST games, right? So they weren't quite as feast as they are now. But even still, as a young child, as an early teen, I was fascinated by them. So computers were just always a thing that I was intrigued by. I always knew that I would be involved in this industry somehow. And then one thing led to another. Funny enough, I actually went to uni and studied psychology. I didn't even go into computing science, which is kind of crazy. But and some may argue, how useful was that in my career? It's been very useful, let me tell you. Having a psychologist background has really helped. But I landed a role at a major bank, actually an American bank, but here in London. And I was replacing toner cartridges and doing what apprentices do. And then finally got into the team that managed, the Windows networks, the DOS as well back in the day in NT. And then got an opportunity to go into networking and into, creating firewall. And again, back then it was IP tables on Linux firewalls. But then got into, more of the modern sort of firewalls that we know today as time went by. And then got a great opportunity to join the vendor space, and which has always been an interesting space because I think in the cybersecurity arena, it was historically the most cutting edge place to be, right? If you worked for a security vendor who was kind of creating new products and innovating, you'd always find yourself sort of playing with the latest tool sets and doing the latest things. Now I think that has shifted massively. You can still be very innovative at a customer as much as you can at a vendor. And one thing led to another. And here I am 26 years later, field CISO at a current company, Rubric, and taking all that experience. And by the way, not a huge deal has changed. Let me tell you that. I mean, 26 years in, yes, automation is far more rife than it ever was. And yes, there's a lot of capabilities around machine learning and stuff like this. And but actually, the way that we do things, the types of attacks we're protecting ourselves from, have just become more sophisticated, but pretty much a very similar bag.
You describing, what piqued your interest, right? Is that electricity combined with, some code, right, creates this visual picture, right? And it was just an Atari, but, at the same time, like when you really think about it, I mean, you never really see electricity. You always see the end result.
Right.
And if you do see electricity, you're probably getting, shocked by lightning or hit by lightning, which is not something that you want to do, right? So,
right,
it's an interesting relationship like that, to be able to kind of like piece that together in your head. Kind of shows how deep of a thinker, you were even at that time.